First off, I think I'll provide a little bit of background and context to the events that led to yesterday's arrest. On the 11th of January in New South Wales, in a rural area called Harold's Cross, New South Wales detectives effected a search warrant and arrested 2 males at an operating clandestine drug laboratory. In that lab, with the 2 men, they were actually producing methamphetamine, and there was 50 litres of high-grade methamphetamine oil. That was destined for South Australia, and we believe that would produce somewhere in the vicinity of 50 to 60 kilos of high-grade methamphetamine. As a result of that activity, on the 11th of January, on the 12th of January, detectives from Serious and Organised Crime Branch here effected a number of searches across the metropolitan area, and which the inquiries led us to an address at Newton, where a 32-year-old male was arrested. He was arrested for firearms offences. There was a sawn-off shotgun was located, also a semi-automatic handgun, a large quantity of ammunition, somewhere in the vicinity of 800 rounds, 250 grams of methamphetamine, and also a silencer. As part of that investigation, detectives seized a Ford Territory and also a Holden utility. He was obviously arrested, and at some stage later he was released on bail. As a result of those investigations, a very comprehensive search was redone on those vehicles, and we actually located inside both vehicles very sophisticated concealment compartments had been purpose-made. They seem to have been electronically operated. Whilst nothing was found in the Ford Territory, in the Holden ute, police found these firearms here. We have 2 semi-automatic pistols, a revolver, an AR-15, which is this firearm here. This has actually been modified to operate in a fully automatic capability, and also the Steyr fully automatic military weapon here. As a result of locating those further firearms, the same 32-year-old male was arrested yesterday. Well, the Steyr is a fully automatic military weapon, so the amount of damage they could cause is massive, and I guess if you look since January 2019 across South Australia, there's been a total of 20 drive-by shootings where houses have been actually shot up. Now, of those 20, we've actually done a breakdown. We can say that 10 of those are OMCG related, and 6 of those are related to the drug trade.
Would you say that this is related to OMCG activity?
What I'd say is that we have sufficient information to substantiate that the drug lab in Harold's Cross is probably linked to the drug lab that we got last month at Morfett Vale, and also the drug lab at Panorama. We think those 3 drug labs and these firearms are all related.
And so related to those
The information we have at this stage, and our investigations have led us to believe that there is certainly a bikie element, certainly towards the top of that organised crime syndicate. At this stage we can't prove that, but we're certainly working towards that.
Can you say what bike?
I won't say what gang at this stage, but I will say it's a national gang.
So this guy who's been arrested, you believe is part of a national syndicate?
This person, I'll probably make a comment more generically. Organised crime, the way it works, it's layered, it's tiered in several different levels. Typically the people at the top of the tree, if you like, they're the people that isolate themselves from the front line. They tend to use lots of people. I guess they use, if you use the military, there's generals and there's sergeants and there's privates down the bottom. Certainly the people at the bottom element of that sort of organised crime syndicate, they're the ones that potentially do the heavy lifting. They're the ones that take the risk. They're the ones that are lured into these syndicate groups through promises that are never kept in terms of we'll make you a lot of money, you'll be part of the group. But typically what we see with organised crime in general is that the people that take the risks are the people that get no benefit from it, and they have a life of misery. And once they get arrested by us, and generally they do get arrested by us, they're discarded by the group.
How significant is it to get these guns off the street?
We're really pleased obviously to take these guns off the street. We're all familiar with the drive-by shootings. We're all familiar with the media reports from time to time. Typically it's a young man presents at a hospital somewhere in the emergency ward with gunshot wounds, often to the legs. Those people never cooperate with police. They never provide statements, they never assist us. So it's very frustrating for us to investigate those matters, but nonetheless we investigate them as much as we can.
Are you doing further investigations into this incident as to maybe have other people that were involved?
This is very much a live investigation and will continue on for some time. A lot of these investigations, and this one's been going for close to 12 months, a lot of these investigations, we would say, have a life of their own. So we're getting closer to the hierarchy of these groups, and we'll continue until we finally get them.
What sort of penalties did the alleged owner of these weapons face?
The person that's charged with these major indictable firearms offences now, he could face potentially up to 15 years imprisonment.
You mentioned before there's concealed compartments for what electronically control. Can you explain that?
Yes, we see a bit of there's a prevalence of that lately, particularly with the drug market and also clearly with the firearms trade. But sometimes they're operated with a key code, with a PIN key code that's attached to another device inside the vehicle. It might just be like a remote control. Sometimes there's a sequence of events. Might be you might need to put the vehicle in reverse, foot on the brake, and maybe turn the air conditioning up to 3 or something like that. There's different sequences. And that's another element of this investigation. We believe we know who's responsible for some of those, and that is a live investigation as well.
Can you describe where these compartments were in?
We'll provide a disc that shows where the compartments were in the ute. It was actually behind one of the seats. It was behind one of the seats. But with the Ford Territory, that was probably a little bit more sophisticated, but there was nothing in there. But there was evidence to suggest that that had been used for drug transits previously.
Australian Defence Force is investigating. Do we believe that that's where the
What I can say in relation to that is there is a current investigation with the ADF, and that's being run with the Queensland Police. And unfortunately, I can't make any further comment on that, but certainly there is an investigation, so I'll refer you to the ADF on that one.
we believe it's possibly stolen?
Believe it has been stolen, yes.
How significant is it that a fully automatic assault rifle has been in their hands?
It's really terribly concerning, and I guess we're really pleased to be able to take these firearms off the hands of criminals. It's impossible for us to measure the amount of harm that we've probably prevented through taking these guns off the street, but clearly no good could come of it in the hands of criminals. I can't comment on that simply because I don't know, but what we do is all of the firearms have been traced through the ACIC's National Firearms Database Tracing System. I can say that the AR-15, that was last known origins of that was in 1980 in the ACT. That should have been part of a buyback scheme in 1996, but it wasn't. So it's basically gone off the radar since that period of time. With the handguns and the other handgun that was located in January, all of the serial numbers have been obliterated, so that makes it very difficult for us to trace those.
In terms of firearms, how rare is it for this sort of procedure of magnitude time?
Very rare for South Australia, and that's, I guess, why we're here today is to say to anyone that's got any information in relation to firearms in general, drugs in general, if there are people that are part of these networks that feel that they can't escape from the networks that are being used, extorted and pressured into these networks, if they want to get some advice or some help from us, they need to contact the police.
Are there any of the weapons that you believe were used in specific drive-by shootings recently?
They've all been ballistically tested, and I don't have that information, but as far as I know, I don't believe that these guns were used in South Australia at this stage. It may be the case that these firearms had recently just come to South Australia for criminal purposes.
Are you investigating
From the ADF, no, we're not. That's a matter for them to comment on the ADF side of things. In relation to the rounds that we found, we actually found rounds for all of these firearms in addition to, I think it was 7.62 rounds and also 45 calibre rounds. So we don't have the firearms that suit those rounds. So we are still searching for a 45 calibre pistol and either an SKS or an AK-47 rifle as well.
in simple terms, are they bigger guns or little guns that you're looking for?
Yeah, large firearms like this.
Do you believe you've crushed a significant amount of network?
I think we're certainly having a dent on the network. Typically they're pretty resilient, We will put pressure on, we will arrest a lot of people, we will take a lot of drugs off the streets, but they are resilient. They tend to try and recruit people down the chain, if you like. I think we're probably familiar with the term of a patsy or a fall guy or a runner for the syndicates. So they're the people that tend to wear the consequences of what's going on. So our job, of course, is to try and get up to the very top of the syndicate and take those people out.
Actually, sir, I know it's still under investigation, but the possibility that the guns are being smuggled or stolen or given to organised crime from the army, how concerning is that?
I think any illicit firearms are really concerning because obviously they invariably find their way to the hands of criminals, and once they're in the hands of the criminals, well then the public generally suffers the consequences of it.